we're going to be doing a discussion on miniaturization and special molding. To help us in that, we're joined by our Global Product Line Director, Ursula Nollenberger. Ursula, welcome to the event today. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me.
So give us like a quick preview of what we can expect from this.
Preview from me, okay. As you said, pioneering and solutions, and it's about innovation and it's about capabilities that enable us to come up with solutions for our customers' demands in today's applications and tomorrow's.
Fantastic. We're looking forward to the presentation and good luck.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. Starting into it, I thought, and you heard that from Linda earlier, is technological evolution. And to relate to that, what drives us is what the market needs today and furthermore tomorrow. And here looking at the diabetes care market as an example of the technological evolution is where insulin was discovered just a little bit over 100 years ago, starting with going to the doctor's office, having blood tested for blood sugar, and with tablets, and then going very quickly to 1954, having a first insulin pen, having a first home glucose meter in 1963, first portable pump, and the first portable pump in 1964 was actually a backpack solution. Going on to glucose monitoring as a continuous glucose monitoring device, first one in 1999, going to laptop-based HCl studies made possible in the early 2000s to what we see today in the industry, a fully integrated CGM and smart pump system. So from that, picking up on some of the things and mega trends and big trends we have seen and we're picking up in the industry, it's about more wearable and smart devices. Both of them mean smaller devices, portable devices, wearable devices, integration of additional functions. It's the monitoring, it's the delivery, it's the connectivity. Along with that is greater risk mitigation needs. It's no longer a trained person that is administering and checking the vitals, but it is actually the patients themselves. We have the trend towards less invasive procedures that brings on the scene. I know today we're talking about silicones, but is, for example, bioresorbables for long-term implantable applications where there's no wish to go back a second time and remove a long-term implantable, but have it absorbed by the body. Patient centricity, therapeutic compliance, and sustainability. We keep coming back to sustainability quite a bit from the customer side. Now, all of that on the left from the customer side. On the right side of the slide is how we continue to respond to that and where we focus our innovation. And I need to go back a little bit anecdotal, and why we speak so much about LSR is LSR as a material, Jano didn't mention it, but first came on the market in the late 70s. And it was shortly after that our founding father, as I call it, really approached it. How do you process this highly viscous material to injection mold it? And that was really the foundation and why we fully embraced LSR in the form of tool making and specialized automation needed to do it. But on the broader scale, material, if we look at what we're doing on the material side, of course, not just silicones, it is whether it is understanding the compliances of the materials, how to process the materials, the application that they fit in, and to the extent needed to also develop a specialized material for the unique application the customer has. Simulation, it was just touched upon in the session right now, looking at simulation of function with a nonlinear FEA capability that we have, DFM, manufacturing simulation, but also into assembly, whether we're doing the assembly, but also supporting the customer when he does the assembly. And last but not least is also sustainability. Keep coming back. What I'm going to do now in the essence of time, because we could talk a lot, is go for a deeper dive on multi-component molding as well as micro-manufacturing and miniaturization. Now, when we look at miniaturization, and you've heard it on various aspects, it's very quick for people to think you need a baby machine, an injection machine. Well, that's not it. Obviously, you need a baby tool with it, but it goes much further. Jeff talked about automation, the handling systems, because you cannot physically manually handle parts manually anymore. It's on the metrology to measure parts, so tiny parts for which there is no international standard to even define tolerances. Materials likewise, not every material will fit micro, so it gets us into nanotechnology in various forms to enable what your needs are application-wise. Micro component molding, I want to cover a couple of aspects. One is more and more, and you heard it several times, and I'm sure you see it and you have it, is the need to integrate electronics or conductive features in two forms, either to overmold, when we look at the molding side of things in our business, to overmold a sensor or a PCB or other electronic component, or to incorporate conductive materials off the shelf, or materials that we customize to the specific needs of what the customer, of what you need. There are a number of challenges with it, and what we bring to it is really our vast polymer engineering and process development expertise. You keep on hearing that. Obviously, bonding technology gets a lot into it because, you know, when we need to overmold and we have various materials to combine, and not everything likes to bond to something else. So it's overcoming all of those processing challenges. And here, what is key to the success is for us to have a holistic understanding of what the product intent is, and then to early on to overcome design challenges and process challenges. Another one I want to go for a little bit deeper dive, you heard from Linda, is what we also have a capability is to integrate drugs and other forms of APIs into silicone and other polymers. Here on the right-hand side, one you see it's an implantable contraceptive device. At the bottom, it is actually a glaucoma stent to lower high eye pressure in open-angle glaucoma patients, where it's about a tiny molded and with API saturated element to achieve that. Again, we bring our engineering knowledge. Actually, one thing I should back up is, in this, it is actually the analytical development and characterization of the combination of drug, excipient, and polymer that is quite critical. And here we have a dedicated laboratory that supports customer to do that as part of the NPD development stage of the process. Again, you keep hearing that we need a holistic approach to develop to a holistic solution to the application, and then we achieve that. With that, I'm going to turn over to my colleague Philipp to then go for a deeper dive for a multi-component, a 2K solution.
Thank you, Ursula.
Okay.
And welcome back. I'm going to jump right away in. So we're going to look here on what I would like to talk about. It is 2K or multi-component molding. What is multi-component molding or 2K molding? It's an injection molding process of two similar or dissimilar polymers into a part. So that can be, for example, LSR onto a thermoplastic. It can be an LSR onto an LSR. It can be an LSR onto a metal or anything like that. It's something that over the last decade, it has been very greatly developed, and the technology advancement here got larger and larger. There's one thing that I really want to point out here, and that goes back to actually what Ursula just was saying. I mean, even here it has actually integrated functions. And what's an integrated function in a 2K part? So it's basically molding a seal onto a plastic part. What does that mean? you can have, just if you see that in the picture there, that white plug there, it used to be a part that are two O-rings have assembled onto. So we redesigned that and basically overmolded that with an LSR. And that is, with that, it's an integrated function. It's a part that has the seal on the part directly. There's no assemble steps required anymore. It's a simplified logistics for you, for the customer, because it's one product, one supplier, one quality, one part, basically. Now with that, I want to jump in actually into a case study of a 2K part. And here we have a so-called micropump. This pump it's in contact with medication and needs a precise dosing of 2 to 10 microliters. It's basically the size of a fingernail. Those are like 15 millimeters in height. It even combines the 2K, what I'm talking about right now, and what we've heard before, miniaturization and micro, because the thermoplastic weight of the part is only 0.65 grams and the LSR is 0.11 grams. With that, it comes that the customer had very high requirements in a matter of clean room production, quality requirements. The tolerance on the sealing bead is plus minus 0.02 of a millimeter. We needed low friction and very high process capability, so it's larger than 1.33 over all the cavities. The only downside we had here a little bit was it was actually already finished design from the customer, but I'm gonna talk about that just later. Some of the challenges was also the function of the pump, because it was a reciprocating movement of the piston for the medication flow. And you can see that it was moving up and down, and through that the medication flows into the pump. And you see the yellow sealing beads there. And one requirement that we had, it needed to be slippery, the sealing bead, but without lubricants. So the importance of the material that comes in here in a matter of bonding and choosing the right material, whatever we heard before in our panel discussion, in regards of coefficient of friction, it all comes in here to the right material combination. As I mentioned before, the part was already designed. It was already made, or the customer already had the print ready. Unfortunately, it was not really a 2K friendly design, I would call it. So just for example, we had very unfavorable shut-off design. So when we shut off on the plastic part, for overmolding LSR, we really coined the plastic to make sure we create another cavity, so we didn't have that. It was unfavorable, the LSR flow. We basically had started out with 2 different gating points because there are 2 seals inside the application. You'll see that afterwards. There was visible gate vestige, so no really valve gating involved yet. There was some issues with the undercut because there's an undercut inside the part and we needed to demold that. So all in all, basically, it was not really 2K friendly or molding friendly designed. However, in a situation like that, what we like to do is actually take a step back and re-evaluating manufacturability. We spoke about that now a few times today, but it is really important to re-evaluate the application in that matter, understand the requirements, because if we understand the requirements of the application itself, that helps us to redefine or re-evaluate the part. For example, if we know exactly which are functional matters of the part, which are non-functional, we know exactly where we can start set on, where we can torque the screw a little bit, make sure we're changing something on the design, adding an additional function or anything like that. And with that, we actually have a very large possibility on impacting the product. We can even reduce costs by that because we now can actually manufacture the part in a better manner. We, for example, so if we have a failure on the part directly, if we have a failure on the part, we have a higher scrap rate or something like that. The only downside in this case was it added development time. So therefore, and I'm gonna say that a few times within the presentation, we need to have very, very early involvement of the supplier, because if we pull that way earlier back to the supplier, the design, we actually have a chance to help you to integrate some of those functions beforehand. We did all that with the customer, and what I said before, actually, we had better manufacturability with reduced cost. And better manufacturability also meant higher quality, through that less risk, and better manufacturability for us. So it's a win-win situation for the customer and for us. Within that, so we were able to change the shutoff on the plastic for the LSR molding. We were able to look at the material combo, have a more superior material that had better adhesion, that had lower coefficient of friction. The tight tolerance achievement, I'm going to speak about that later, so I'm not going to get into detail because that's very interesting in my opinion. Then the automated demolding, so we're not just going to drop the part into a bin, and it's a plastic part, it's a very critical part, so dropping a part on a part, you're going to see some dents, so we fixed that. And then the direct gated shutoff nozzle, so rather than have a sprue or a large gate vestige, do molding the part like this with a direct gated shutoff nozzle. So one example that you see here is now, that's the material flow of the LSR. And I'm going to get into that just after that, but one important part is that you see here, you see the two different seals on the top and then the bottom. There's like a little bridge between. And that was not in the beginning, it was two different seals, so we had in the beginning two gating points. And with some creative thinking and redesigning, we actually added the tunnel just to make sure that we only need one injection point. Then on the bottom as well, there is another tunnel, just in a matter of having a better flow for the end of the flow part, so not having any short shots or anything like that. We also use simulations for clarifying tool concept, evaluate possible challenges for molding, and so on, so on. Now, for me, the one very interesting part is how we were able to achieve that very tight tolerance of 200 plus minus 200 millimeter on the sealing bead. It was with reverse engineering. Due to the difficulty of the simulation on the shrinkage of the two materials, we could not simulate that. So what we did is we did a computer tomography pictures of the seal to analyze the sealing bead, and then basically with a color comparison, check the nominal between the nominal and the actual, so then adjusting the steel itself. With that, I'm actually going to get to the end of my presentation. I just want to summarize one thing with my presentation right now, and it's also including a case story and what Ursula told us for us. We ask you to really early involve us from the design of the part, because with that, we have a much better possibility to give you the input of how should we design the part, what should we change, how we make it manufacturability, how we make it 2K friendly. That's very important for us, and I cannot address that more than ever. So with that, I thank everyone for listening to our presentation.
Thank you. Great presentation, you two, on pioneering in silicone. So we're going to go to our audience questions now. First one I'm going to ask for Ursula. This is, what would you say are Trelleborg's most outstanding innovations in silicone?
Ooh. Two that come to mind, going back to 2K. It is not brand new, but it is continuing to develop it to now we're talking about large cavitation setups to enable the manufacturing of high volume parts, consumables. The other one you heard about, it's also quite innovative, I think, is the iCast as a revolutionary method of producing serial parts in small volumes. I could mention many more, but those are the two I will pick.
No, that's great. All right, question for Philipp. Small LSR parts tend to stick together when fed to the assembly line. Do you have recommendations for solving this problem in relation to the design of the part?
Yes, we do. It depends the geometry. You know that that's going to come. There are possibilities. I mean, with surface textures, with adding features, design, it really depends the geometry. I mean, if there are any questions for that, reach out to our engineers, and we are more than happy to welcome the design. But we also have some expertise on the automation feeds itself. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting question because it does get into the whole life cycle of the part, not just is it made to spec, but what's it actually doing later on. So that's very interesting. Yeah. Ursula, miniaturization versus micro. What sizes are we talking about here?
Again, it's a good question. What we've done is, and right now I'm speaking about injection molded parts, we've defined an envelope because there is no formal definition for what micro is. So we define micro anything that fits smaller than in a 5 millimeter cube in terms of part size, something that has less than 0.2 grams of mass weight of mass, or a feature that is 0.5 millimeters and less. But no matter how small something you have, again, I would encourage any customer to come to us to let us take a look at it, and I'm sure we're going to find a solution for it with our creative engineering teams.
Fantastic. This next question from the audience is about engineering teams. Either one of you can take it. What's the best way to educate my engineering team on best LSR component design practices so that we can bring you parts that are ready to be manufactured?
I love it.
Yeah. Me too.
Can I take it?
Yes.
Or you want to take it?
No,
okay.
take it.
That is really early involvement from the design. A big problems that we see a lot of time is the part is already finished design. So it has its place in the application. Sometimes it's too late. And the application that I just showed was a good example where we actually still were ahead of the curve. Sometimes it's too late because it's already designed. But if we are involved even before there's a print made, even before there's everything around made, or if we have a seat on the table to support, to educate the customer, that's where we're really strong at. And it's where we can help. That's where we can to work together with the customer, have 2K intended production, have adding features that it runs afterwards better in an automation, all those kind of things. But that's, again, if the design is done, it's generally too late.
It's hard.
So there is such a thing as too late in terms of the time to involve.
There is. And the next thing is also the development time, right? So if you do that early, you actually have much more time. But even if you have time in my application, the application that I just showed before, we were running it added to the development time because it was later on.
And this kind of gets back to what you were saying earlier about that production intent, prototyping at the outset, making sure we truly have something we can scale.
Exactly.
That's great. All right. Well, with that said,
if I can add on,
absolutely.
actually, sorry, I have to add on to that. Nothing to this, but as a customer, we're also happy to come on site for what we call, a lunch and learn, with a team, to really sit down with customers' engineering teams to really go through some of the basics. So that's just something before we're in the project, a specific project to take on board some of the basics of what make the difference between a feasible and non-feasible part.
Yeah, that's a good point. And in terms of the education part, that's part of why we're doing these Connect live stream events, is that we can help educate the industry on things relating to silicone and medical devices. We're going to take a quick break. But when we get back, we're going to be flying a couple 100 miles from here to Switzerland, where we're going to do a tour of our Stein am Rhein facility. You're not going to want to miss it. We'll see you soon.